Hello and welcome to part 3 of this beginner's tutorial for making Flappy Bird in Godot. In this video, we'll be adding the most important part of the game, which is the bird, and we'll also be adding player input. In Godot, there are usually several different ways of doing the same thing. What I want to do now is to make the bird and have it as its own scene. And until now in this tutorial, we've accomplished that by adding child node here to main and then saving it as its own branch later. And I could do that now as well, but let's instead create a new scene from scratch to start with. So let's go up here to scene and then click new scene, and I'll choose here other node and I'll go to kinematic body 2D and I'll rename this bird, and then I'll just save scene as bird.csn. Now we need to add a sprite to this, so I'll just add a child node and type in here sprite like this, and then we're gonna be using this image here, bird.png, and I'll drag this to texture here, and I'll scale it up here by a factor of 3 like this. And then we see this is very blurry, so I need to go to import and untick this filter box and re-import. The sprite here is now showing 2 birds, and obviously we don't want that. We want only 1 bird. So the reason why this is now showing 2 birds is that this image is in fact a little sprite sheet containing the flapping animation for the bird, and this animation has 2 frames. So to fix this, we go here into the animation tab and select that this sprite sheet has 2 frames horizontally and 1 vertically. So now this looks more like we want it to. And while we're talking about animations, let's just add the flapping animation now straight away and make the bird come a little bit more alive for us. So to do that, we go to scene here and we add here a child node of type animation player. Here animation player to our bird, and then we add a new animation down here on the animation tab here, new, and I'll just call this flapping like this. So the Godot animation is a really versatile tool, and you can animate a lot of different things. So this is really a great feature of Godot. So to animate the frame, we want to add here a new track to our animation, and we want a property track, and what we want to animate is the sprite here, and the property we want to animate is the frame. So select frame here like so. I'll just zoom in here a little bit to see more clearly what is going on. And now we want to add the frames to our animation. And this is a really simple animation consisting of only 2 frames. While I'm here in the animation player, I'll click here the sprite. And then to add the frames, I go here under the frame and click this key icon with the plus. So that will add the frame that is shown here. So I'll add first the frame 0, and then I'll add frame 1. And now you see here the snap option is at 0.1 seconds. So each frame is now 0.1 seconds. And then that makes this whole animation 0.2 seconds long. So I'll just change that here. And I'll make this repeat or loop like this. And I want this to start playing immediately, so I click this autoplay on load here as well. So to play this animation and see what it looks like, I click here. So that shows us a nice little flapping animation. Alright, now let's just save and then add the bird to our main scene here. So go to main and right click here and instance child scene. And I'll choose the bird here like this. And then if we run the game now, we see that the bird is there and it's flapping. Now in our game here, the bird is placed in the center horizontally, and in the original Flappy Bird, it's placed a little bit to the left here. So let's just fix that And we could just choose this move mode here and drag the bird a little bit over, or we can change it here in the transform, and I'll just do that now. So I'll put it here at -25 in the X direction. So just like that. Okay, now, so let's add some physics to our bird, or more specifically the falling movement. So we'll go into our bird here and we'll add a script to the bird here, and let's just save it as bird.gd. And then let's get rid of all the fluff here, like that. And then I would like to add a gravity variable here, or gravity, and this is just one of those things you need to play around and see what works and feels the best. So I'll just put this at 1500 now. And then I also need to make a movement vector, and I'll call this move vector. And I want to put this at vector 2, 0, 0, or another way to do that is to put vector 2 dot 0. That's the same thing. Now, to simulate gravity, we'll be adding the gravity variable times delta to the y dimension of the movement vector every frame, like this here. Move vector dot y plus equals gravity times delta, and then we will run the move and slide function here with the move vector as a parameter. So let's just run that and see what that looks like. I think that looked okay, but we'll get a better feel for that in a moment, because we will now be adding the player input and the jumping. And to do that, we will now go into the projects menu here and project settings and go to the input map here. And then we will add a new action, and I will call this action jump. Just press enter, and then we got it down here, and I can add here an event, and I'll just put a key, and that will be spacebar. And then later we can add the mouse click as well. Okay. Then I'll add a jump strength variable up here, and I'll give that a value of 500. And to check for the input, I will use the input is action just pressed function here, and I put in jump. And then I will set the y portion of the movement vector here to minus jump strength, like that. So let's just run that and see how that works. Okay, so that seemed to work fine for now. If we now have a look at our Flappy Bird IO game here, we see that the bird will be rotated a bit upwards, but when it is falling faster than a certain speed, it will start to rotate more and more downwards. So let's do that here as well. So I'll then make a new function here, which I will call rotate bird. And let us say that as long as the y velocity is less than 300, we want to tilt the bird upwards a little bit. And 300 will be moving still a little bit downwards. So if move vector.y is less than 300, I will put the rotation of the bird to minus 15 degrees. So I will use here the rotation degrees, which is a property of the kinematic body 2D, and I will set that to minus 15 degrees. Okay, let's try and run this now. Okay, that doesn't work because I need to run the rotate bird function here. Rotate bird, and then we'll try again. Okay, so that looks okay. Good. And now for the downward rotation, this will probably be a bit mathy, but I'll try to explain as clearly as I can. First of all, we obviously want to limit the rotation within a certain range, and we want to tie the rotation to the vertical velocity. So to do that, we will use a function called clamp, and we'll do it like this. I'll put in here an else statement, and then I will make a variable here called clamped velocity. and I'll set that to clamp, and then move vector.y, which is the value that I want to limit, and I'll set that to 300 and 570, and I will subtract 300 from that, and that will give me a value between 0 and 270. And when I divide that value by 3, I will get a value between 0 and 90. So now if I set the rotation degrees to clamped velocity divided by 3, I will rotate from 0 to 90 degrees, starting from a velocity of 300 and up. So let's try and run this now and see what it looks like. All right, so that looks okay. So I think we'll just take a little break now. This is as far as we got, and in the next tutorial we'll be looking at collision shapes and states. And if you found this valuable, click the like button, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in part 4 of this tutorial.